Good evening and thanks. We had a little bit of an audio difficulty. I'm Barbara Berrigan-Perea, and I'd like to welcome you to Where the Future Flows, our year-end benefit and kickoff fundraising drive for Restore the Delta. After polling you, our supporters, we decided to hold this event online, but we're looking forward to having a public celebration in late spring of 2023 when the weather is warmer and we can gather outdoors. It doesn't mean this evening, however, that our event won't be festive, hopefully entertaining, informative, and fun. You will hear about our extensive work that we completed in 2022 and our vision for 2023 and beyond. You'll see wonderful performances by talented young Delta musicians, and you'll get to meet our new staff members and Climate Water Advocate team. I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors who made this event, our recent Next Generation Symposium, and our overall work happen this year. In particular, we would like to thank the Community Foundation of San Joaquin County, EDGE Collaborative, the James Irvine Foundation, Reinvent Stockton Foundation, the A.G. Spanos Companies, NRDC, the Cortopassi Family Foundation, Mosaic Momentum, Cal EPA, California Striped Bass, Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, Delta Fly Fishers, Michael Eisler, Environment Now of California, Dr. Barbara Arnold and Dr. Henry Go, the Frost family, Nikki Seward, the Marin Community Foundation, Herringer Estates, Mark Wilson Farms, Steve and Janice Hopcraft, and the Consortium of Delta Landowners who organized new pledges this week in support of our work for 2023, on top of years of sustaining contributions to our organization. We also extend our sincere gratitude to the thousands of donor members from across the state who made it a priority to ensure that we survived during the pandemic. We carry you all in our hearts as part of our shared love for the San Francisco Bay Delta Estuary. I also want to thank our board members for their continued support and service. Joan Buchanan, retired Senator Mike Machado, Michael Frost, Roger Mammon, Larry Rustaller, Natalia Orfanos, and Bob Wright. I also want to thank this evening Goodstock, G-Force, and the well where we're broadcasting live from this evening. So please grab your dinner or dessert, a good glass of wine or other adult beverage, or something warm to drink, and join us in celebrating what we've accomplished and learn about what we need to focus on and fund in 2023 to protect the Delta for the next generation, where the future will flow. Next up is a short video of how our young staff is learning about the Delta by working with our region's elders.
That is what the river is collecting. That's why there'll be a 100-year flood next time we have any kind of water. It's John Marias, which is spelled M-O-R-A-I-S. What else you need to know? My first real boat that I owned myself was in 1953, I believe it was. No, 1951.
You see happening if we did get hit with that flood?
Well, this island, this is Tyler Island over here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This island has flooded before. I think it was 93 it flooded. And so the home across the street there had 8 feet of water in it. Juicy's was closed. All the businesses along the road were closed. So it affects a lot of people, plus the homes. I mean, it's disaster. You know, I've seen floods here in the 50s, but we had a lot of depth. Now we don't have the depth, and so you can imagine, you know, I mean, when I know what I imagine because I lived through the floods of the 50s and 70s and 90s. And it's just going to get worse. It has to. They have to do something. When I had my marina, I couldn't take the silt out underneath the slips without putting it up on land and making sure there's no mercury in it. If there was any mercury, I'd have to take that load of silt to Idaho or somewhere.
Another community that would be affected by a flood from all the silt from that. That's just from moving around the weeds.
What do they want to do? Put a pipe in?
Yeah, tunnel down.
Yeah. I mean, sending more water south, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
totally ridiculous. So those are the kind of issues you're fighting with the state.
Welcome back. Well, our financial condition improved during 2022, enabling us to modestly expand our team almost back to pre-pandemic levels. We need to build a fund to support this work in the years to come. We also recognize that because so much of our work right now happens in Zoom meetings or small group meetings or in advocacy with different government agencies, that we can't exactly always tell our supporters everything that we have worked on. Telling our members that we showed up for a government meeting and gave input for a policy change doesn't always exactly warrant a newsletter. But the sum total of our advocacy in numerous areas for the Delta is creating change. So here's part of what we accomplished in 2022. First off, we trained 15 interns who represented Delta water protection interests with local elected officials, U.S. senators, the Delta Stewardship Council, and at the State Water Resources Control Board. These same interns have expanded our social media campaigns around water quality and flood protection needs for the region. They're now turning their efforts to the Delta Conveyance Project. And they're having an impact because we're seeing change every day in how the Delta community must be included in planning for the state's future. We hired and trained staff in partnership with government agencies and academic institutions to implement a science-based harmful algal bloom monitoring program. Data collected has been used by the State Water Resources Control Board and the Delta Stewardship Council for future planning to mitigate this water quality problem. It's also been well received by US EPA for further study. Our Delta Science Coordinator is now training fishing groups to help be our eyes on the waterways. And this work culminated with a 2-day presentation with the Delta Stewardship Council for future planning on how we're really going to mitigate this water quality challenge. In the spring, we presented at the SF Estuary Bay Conference, giving input on community issues around water quality and harmful algal blooms as part of an update on their assessment on the overall health of the estuary. For the first time, this science-based analysis of water quality impacts for the estuary also included analysis on how these impacts affect vulnerable communities in the Delta. We presented at the Salinity Conference for the Delta, run by the Independent Science Board, and we articulated the full socioeconomic analysis required in climate planning for the Delta. We're presently preparing through written comments, definitely a robust response to the Delta Conveyance Project Environmental Impact Report, a project that sadly has gone from bad to even worse. We collected data and provided analysis for petitions with the State Water Resources Control Board for the completion of the Bay Delta Plan, and we're moving forward with this work in different venues. We participated in the creation of a white paper to articulate community needs and standards for potential carbon capture sequestration projects in the Delta. We informed and helped shape, through regular meetings and tours, a thorough and complete environmental justice analysis for the Delta produced by the Delta Stewardship Council. This partnership is creating full environmental justice policies for the people of this region. Mariah Looney is now the Delta Protection Commission Advisory Committee Chair. Spencer Fern has led ongoing harmful algal bloom committee research and meeting with the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution District. Our team has advocated for improved local water and air pollution controls with the Port of Stockton. Artie Valencia is training Delta communities on flood protection needs, and Sarah Medina has identified urban farm resource needs and has commenced creation of a database for agricultural workforce development and training. We also trained over 36 young professionals at other Delta community-based organizations on water quality and needed protections so that they could partner with us for self-representation. Many of them joined our staff and climate water advocates at our recent symposium to articulate a vision for the Delta's future. Our team is building stronger bridges with communities throughout California to support sustainable water programs that solve the water needs of those who have been forgotten in planning. Programs and projects that keep rivers and groundwater systems connected and healthy, provide clean drinking water for all people, use water efficiently for drought protection, keep water affordable for everyone, and protect communities from flood. They're working with others on what it means to restore salmon runs and in the aid and restoration of the health of the Bay Delta estuary. We need these young Delta champions to lead the way into the future. This long list does not include our work on the H2O Hackathon, a water tech challenge that includes hundreds of local university, college, and high school students, and a myriad of local planning projects for a green economy. Shifting gears, harmful algal blooms are the physical manifestation of what ails the estuary. It's a lack of fresh water flows, warm water temperatures, upstream discharge into our rivers, and local environmental problems. It's what creates the condition for HABs, and it will only worsen without a completed Bay Delta plan, with lack of proper climate change planning and the dreaded Delta Tunnel. Our team, led by Spencer Fern, with the help of smart young university students, really created a unique program in partnership with the Regional Water Board and their scientists and academics from the University of North Carolina. It is a data-driven water quality test program, and they created it all from scratch in 2022. We need funding for 2023 to continue this program. Data is the first step for reaching a solution to bring about positive change for the health of the estuary. This next video will show you the work that we're doing in the field and why it is so vitally important and needs to continue.
So I initially joined Restore the Delta in hopes to pursue a career in water management. So I found that the water quality program with Restore the Delta was a great opportunity to get experience in conducting these water quality tests, which are needed to get like a laboratory job. However, once I started my work with Restore the Delta, I found that my community here in Stockton needed me, not just to clean up the water, but there's a lot of climate justice work that needs to be done here.
My experience with the harmful algae blooms testing program has been a contrasting difference from last year. Last year, we didn't have a large amount of entrants or a large quantity of entrants, and this year we doubled. Other things that I found really interesting throughout the water testing program this year was the fact that the differences between the testing last year and the testing this year were influenced by the changes in climate that we have been seeing due to climate change.
This was one of the spots we tested in our harmful algal bloom testing, and some of the most interesting data that we found was in this area, where we had one of the most prolonged bloom toxins that we could have all through the entire month of August. We were breaking the limit of our tests, which was up to about 10 micrograms per liter. which on a scale for the warning signs is a sign where you want to keep people out of the water.
With these water samples, I would take them over to the office and do some water filtering, where we isolated some of the DNA and also collected information like the pH level.
And so some of the partners we have for our harmful algal bloom problem are the State Water Resources Control Board, specifically Region 5 of the Central Valley, and they help train us and get it set up for our testing program. And then there's also San Francisco Baykeeper, who has also been able to provide drone footage and coverage of the area, so we can not only get the data but show the pictures along with it, so it gets kind of the full scope of it.
This is something that we must raise the awareness on, specifically when we advocate.
Welcome back. We're so proud of our team that it worked on all these HABs projects this year. And while our primary focus is on the environment, science, and future solutions, celebrating art, music, history, and culture is what adds life to the data. Next up is a musical performance by Kate Smash, a young Stockton area performer who loves to write songs about living in this difficult modern age.
Played you all the little songs can take with you. Maybe a piece of me.
Thank you so much to Kate for that lovely performance. You know, for me, the best part of this job is working with the next generation. Our climate water advocates, you know, as part of our Restore the Delta intern team, they've brought so much life to our organization. We had 15 interns with us this year. Many have completed their projects, graduated, and are now moving into full-time employment in areas related to our organization. So we'll be recruiting several new interns going forward for 2023, and funding for this program needs to continue. Our next video reveals, you know, what this program means to them, the Climate Water Advocate team. We hope you enjoy it. So Restore the Delta, most people don't know, but pretty much since its inception has had a really robust internship program that we really expanded during the last 2 years. And so in addition to hiring young staff to prepare to run our organization, the benefits of having this kind of massive intern program is that we prepare next generation workers, kind of a workforce pipeline, not only for our organization, but for other environmental organizations, water organizations, engineering organizations, climate change organizations, social justice organizations.
When I saw Restore the Delta's advertisement for their internship position, I felt like it would be a really good fit for me because of their, like, particularly how they valued, like, just the communities of the Delta. I've lived in Sacramento my whole life, and growing up, I was never allowed to go play in the water because it was always thought to be really, like, dirty, and from a science perspective of safety, but also from a perspective of how can we make this safer and better for the people who live here too.
Restore the Delta has opened me to a world of water that I've never experienced before. Before working with Restore the Delta, I had surface level knowledge of how California's general water system operated, but as many of you know, it can be quite complicated.
It has been a tremendous difference between my first year and my second year, especially because we transitioned out of the COVID-19 pandemic, and so the changes have been really drastic from one day to another. On top of this, the resources that we have been able to obtain have doubled the size of interns in our organization, so this also means that we have doubled the scope of our work, particularly pertaining to college students or a younger audience. It's to kind of set a stronger foundation on my knowledge about water infrastructure projects and even policy that pertains to the Delta planning.
With Restore the Delta, I have had the opportunity to take part of many different events. I have attended meetings with the Delta Stewardship Council. I have also had the opportunity to present statements in front of the State Water Board.
Working with Restore the Delta has been extremely relevant to my studies and to my personal goals. I learned so much about the place that I lived, which was never taught to me formally. It provided and welcomed a space for me that I felt was really lacking in my community. The staff at RTD provided great resources and training to supplement our knowledge that we had of the Delta. The training was in-depth and covered an array of topics necessary for someone who'd be representing RTD. I've learned the history of California water rates and water industries, voluntary agreements, flood threats, fisheries, groundwater, urban water efficiency, and energy nexus, and how climate change is intertwined with all of these topics, just to name a few. The opportunities once completing the training seemed endless. I toured the communities of the Delta and listened to their histories and experiences of what the Delta used to be like.
To date, we've had close to 120 interns who have successfully finished our internship program. And these young adults end up receiving full training on Delta issues, water management in California, water planning, the history of water development. They end up acquiring all kinds of job skills, from doing research, writing comment letters, to doing social media campaigns, running events. And they have gone on to have had great careers. Some of them run nonprofits, some work for large social justice organizations. A large percentage of them have manager positions within nonprofits. Some have gone on to complete water law training and have become lawyers, and a number have gone to work for state agencies. So they end up becoming people who understand our needs for a healthy estuary in a community, and they end up carrying our message into their work in other places in California.
Moreover, I've been fortunate to experience opportunities I haven't envisioned myself doing. So, for example, I've given public comment at the State Water Resources Control Board. I've learned how to do water testing for harmful algal blooms. I've conducted in-person events at Safari Outreach. I've also been able to tour vital parts of the Delta to actually comprehend on a physical level how places can be affected by climate change.
Throughout my second year as an intern, I have also noticed the differences in efforts from community organizations and statewide organizations dealing with different aspects of climate change. This pertains to other aspects of my work, but within the scope of this of my response right now, I have noticed that there is now an emerging and rising interest into how we can contribute and support grassroots organizations to create adaptive monitoring for environmental justice communities.
I also work with the University of North Carolina to help with their research in studying the link between air quality and the aeration of harmful algal blooms in Delta water.
While working at Restore the Delta, I have learned a lot more about the environmental sector and environmental work than I ever expected. Personally, all of my education has been really focused on the science and on like history, but while working at Restore the Delta, we've talked so much about local policy and projects like the Delta Tunnel Project. And personally, I had no knowledge of all these policies and of all of these different potential local conflicts up until working here. And I didn't realize how much we have to care for the people that we have locally at Restore the Delta and elsewhere. And a lot of the issues we have in our state, in particular, with things like harmful algal blooms. One skill in particular that I feel really grateful to Restore the Delta for helping me hone in on and kind of give to the world is I've been doing photography for a few years on my own, but since joining Restore the Delta, I've been able to use that to kind of deliver a narrative to the public about our waterways. Overall, I just really think that the work at Restore the Delta is helping way more people than we could ever imagine, because it's reaching out to smaller communities, underserved communities, and people that we normally wouldn't maybe think about or see when we're talking about policy at the state level.
Our interns are truly an inspiring group of individuals. As I mentioned earlier, we've also made a major investment in training other organizations on Delta issues. We work in numerous collaborations to support other organizations with environmental justice training. And this next video explains how our partners see our work.
Hello, my name is Lang Luntao. I have the great honor of serving as a senior advisor to the board of the Reinvent Stockton Foundation. I'm also on the board of Little Manila Rising. I'm a born and raised Stocktonian, and I'm a proud supporter of Restore the Delta. Congratulations to Restore the Delta for hosting this wonderful fundraising event in a wild time. And thank you to Restore the Delta for all the work that you do to increase access to this incredible resource that we have in our backyards, the Delta, and to ensure its long-term longevity and its health. I remember growing up, I knew that it was special that we had the Delta in San Joaquin County and the San Joaquin River area. I remember in elementary school I learned about the whales that sometimes, found their way from the Pacific Ocean into the Delta area, and the history of shipping and the connection with the gold rush. But I don't think I really truly understood how fragile the Delta was until I went to college and I came back in 2012. And when I came back, I saw all these bumper stickers that said restore the Delta and protect the Delta and fight the tunnels. And at that time, I became aware of this incredible organization that was doing all these incredible things for our community, like protecting the human right of access to clean water and fighting against the very moneyed interests that aim to degrade our water source and aim to really prevent access to this life-giving resource that we need. And if it weren't for Restore the Delta's consistent work to pay attention to municipal water board meetings and to democratize access to those meetings and to kind of translate what's going on in these statewide decision-making bodies to members of our community, I don't think that we would, I don't think we'd still have access to this incredible resource that we are still very lucky to benefit from. So I'm just here to echo the many people who lift up the work of Restore the Delta. Barbara and Mariah and the Restore the Delta team are the best ambassadors that we have for environmental justice, and not just environmental justice, for a chosen few, but environmental justice for all of us, an inclusive environmental justice. So again, thank you to Restore the Delta. I hope that tonight we can come together as a community to raise resources for the critical, life-saving, community-affirming work that you do. And I hope that together we can continue to restore, protect, and to really increase access to the Delta for residents of San Joaquin County.
Hi, I'm Catherine Phillips, and for nearly a decade, I served as director of Sierra Club California. One thing I learned then was that nobody understands the Delta as deeply as Restore the Delta and its terrific dedicated staff. Nothing in environmental policy is done alone. It truly takes a village to get good policies in place and to stop the bad ideas. Within that village of groups working on water issues in California, one stands out for its strategic and persistent protection of the interests of the Delta and everything that the Delta means for the region and the state's environmental health. Restore the Delta has dared to say absolutely no to the tunnel boondoggle, and it has consistently backed up its position with irrefutable facts and analysis. It has raised the alarm about harmful algal blooms and pushed to get state agencies to pay attention to this expanding hazard. And it has worked to educate others, especially young people, about how to advocate for the Delta and Delta communities. Here's something we all know. Climate change is creating less snowpack and longer droughts. Hanging on to old ideas about how to supply water, ideas based on old precipitation models, is foolish. And sacrificing the Delta and Delta communities because some state engineers and self-serving water wholesalers haven't had the flexibility and foresight to change course sooner, well, that's immoral. Barbara and her team are determined and scrappy. They bring intelligence and the moral high ground to the Delta debate. That local voice that forces folks in Sacramento, at the state capitol, at the water agencies, and people all around the state to listen is urgently needed. Everyone who supports the Delta needs the Restore the Delta team to continue its work. Finally, from this Delta birdwatcher, thanks for your support for Restore the Delta.
Hi, my name is Dylan Delvo. I'm the Executive Director of Little Manila Rising, and it has been amazing to be able to work with Restore the Delta. They've been helping us educate our community, our South Stockton community, about the beauty of the Delta and the importance of the Delta and possible effects upon our community because of the Delta. And so it's been an honor and a privilege to really work with Barbara and Mariah in educating our community so we can raise awareness about this important resource in our community. I grew up in South Stockton and I knew nothing about the Delta. I really don't experience the Delta until I'm in my 30s, yet I'm 5 minutes away from a levee. I think this is so important because for a population of our community in Stockton, there should be way more advocates for the health of our Delta and for the betterment of our community. And I think we can make that happen with people specifically from South Stockton so that we can have a voice in the community that we're living in the neighborhoods that we have, and so we can truly have a Delta that we can all share. And so my hats go off to Restore the Delta and all the work and amazing work and reaching out to organizations to let us understand the challenges we face as an entire Delta community.
Hello, my name is Councilwoman Kimberly Wansley from the 6th District here in Stockton. I have a very important message about Restore the Delta. Restore the Delta is one of the most trusted partners and organizations that we have within San Joaquin County. They have worked tirelessly, diligently, and consistently to ensure that our waterways are protected. When I ran for office, I sat down with Restore the Delta and they walked me through the state and condition of our local waterways. I even got a complimentary lunch during my training. If you don't know anything about Stockton, please know that Stockton is home to some of the greatest taquerias. At the end of the training, I was fully debriefed on the issues impacting our water. Restore the Delta was able to connect me with our experts and champions on waterways throughout the state. There are also so many times where they've advocated, pulled together solutions and strategies to help support our community. They are always a call away. My call to action today is to provide Restore the Delta with the tools, resources, supports, and investments they need to ensure that they are able to fully operate themselves. Thank you for all of your time and commitment, Restore the Delta. You will be getting a donation from me in the very near future, and just know and understand that I appreciate you so very much. Thank you, and do have a wonderful day.
My name's Irene Kalimlim. A really important resource that we have available in Stockton is the Delta. And a lot of our youth don't really know that much about the history of the Delta, and so we're really grateful for Restore the Delta in helping train our youth to know the history, to know the Delta's significance in the rich agriculture that we have in our region, as well as supplying a lot of really important drinking water to our communities, and also learning about all the diversity of the animal and fish species that rely on the Delta. And so if it wasn't for Restore the Delta, we wouldn't know the value of that and the importance of protecting it. And so that's why I support Restore the Delta's mission.
We want to thank our work partners so much who, took the time to shoot those videos for us during the pandemic. We really appreciate having the chance to work with all of them. Up next, we have a really nice Delta-centered musical performance by local songwriter and performer Giovanni Brooks. Ever since a friend convinced him to take a guitar class at Delta Community College, he hasn't put his guitar back down. We hope you enjoy his music as much as we do.
Hello, how's it going? My name is Giovanni Brooks, and I'm a singer-songwriter from Stockton, California. I'd like to say a couple things before I play the song this evening. I'd like to thank Mariah and Restore the Delta for having me participate in this event tonight. Obviously, I'm not there in person, but I hope you guys enjoy this performance. The song's called Church Steps. Well, I fell down at the side of the road, had my hand out to the wind. Well, I fell out to the side of the road, had my hand out to the wind, and I was singing along. Ooh, 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 ooh. Like my mama down at the church steps. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. I was screaming now. Why, oh boy. Well, my mama was in church. She was crying down to herself, wondering what she did wrong. Yeah, my mama was in church. She was falling down. She was crying to herself, wondering what did she do wrong. Ooh, 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 ooh. As my mama fell down in the church steps. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, ooh. She was singing now, why, my boy. As my mom fell down at the church steps. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. She was screaming now, why, my boy.
Thank you so much to Giovanni, who's playing live right now at Cast Iron Trading along with Kate Bush. We hope you get a chance to see them perform live soon. I'd like to take a moment to thank right now Mariah Looney and our new staff members and all our interns for all their work that has gone into this evening's event. Next up, I'm really excited for you to meet our new staff, Sarah Medina, Artie Valencia, and Spencer Fern. Working with them is just an honor and a daily joy. Stay tuned. part of our long-term planning for Restore the Delta is to really do credible long-term succession planning. A lot of organizations will have leaders that work in community-based groups or environmental groups that will really work well past normal retirement age. And that's a lovely thing because people are elders in the community, in the water community in California. They offer a lot of experience and expertise. But at Restore the Delta, we noticed there was a really big gap between these really talented elders and who was going to do the work in future generations. So we decided that we were going to put our time and our effort and our resources and our assets into really training good policy analysts for the future, for people who can collect data and really do the kind of science that we need that will be credible, community-based science so that we can interface well with government agencies, especially with climate change impacts as they impact water in California, water management. We also really believe that if you want to create meaningful, positive change in the world, then you have to open up and provide space and be willing to share space with the next generation, because they're the folks who are going to be living with the impacts of the decisions that we make right now today in how we manage the Delta and our state water resources in California.
One of the reasons why this job attracted me is because I always had an interest in conservation. Specifically, I wanted to give back to underserved and unacknowledged communities, as well as ecosystems. So this job is something that is really special to me because I'm giving back to my community and where I grew up.
The main reason why I chose to work for Restore the Delta is because I wanted to be the change and the solution for generations to come, not only in Stockton or the Central Valley, but also for the generations that will follow from us.
I grew up in Stockton, California, was born and raised here. Used to recreate on the Delta with boating around the Windmill Cove, Paradise Point, all these types of things. So the Delta's always been a big part of my life. So that kind of ties into why I wanted to work with Restore the Delta and also the science side of things, because I went to college out at CSU in Monterey Bay, where I spent a lot of time going into microbiology courses and doing science courses, and then the lab stuff was always the most fun for me specifically. But what drew me to the job from Restore the Delta was I was able to run a science program here, which right now is mostly focused on harmful algal blooms, and a lot of my work right now is centered on harmful algal blooms, but in the future I'm sure it'll be more water quality range. Being able to have a hands-on approach to fixing the problems around harmful algal blooms, water quality assessment things, it has been a pleasure working with Restore the Delta for the past year, because I started off with not knowing many people or knowing how this program was going to get set up, but with resources from people from the State Water Resources Control Board, extremely helpful, building connections with people from the California Striped Bass Association. It's been a great job just to be able to interact with communities and further understand how we can report the problems we see in the Delta each year.
So this last October, we had a youth symposium where we gathered a bunch of people from all over, like MBK Engineers, Little Manila, and a lot of other organizations to speak on several topics, such as fisheries, HABs, water quality, air quality, climate change mitigation, sustainable ag, and much more. The purpose of the symposium was just to gather the youth and see if we could possibly not only inform them, but just get them involved in, the current issues that their city is facing in terms of not only water quality, but also environmental justice community issues. So we had a pretty successful turnout, and it's honestly one of our most successful virtual events. So I am really proud of all of our team for working really hard on that.
As a sustainable coordinator here at Restore the Delta, my main goal is to find urban farms and also sustainable farmers
who are willing to teach the new generation of farmers how to do what they're doing to hopefully move into the future and see a better way of bringing food to our tables that won't be affecting our environment as negatively as we have been in the last few decades here in the Central Valley. I was a little girl in Linden, so being so close to Stockton, I remember going to the Delta and falling in love with it and its beauty and all of its beautiful creatures. And I noticed as I got older, a lot of people were detached from how amazing our estuary really is. And one of our main goals is to teach people that you can still be attached to the estuary and build a living from it by just growing our food.
I have very fond memories of the levee, and I kind of want to preserve that so the city could thrive and be a place where people can visit and utilize this natural water source that we have for recreational purposes, fishing purposes, and anything else.
Sarah, Spencer, and Artie bring youthful enthusiasm to their roles. They are extending RTD's reach into new areas where we've longed to go in the past, and they do so with grace and energy. Early on, I worked with Spencer to get him a library of scientific articles and monographs and slide decks, all about harmful algal blooms, and he has handled that archival avalanche really well. We've collaborated on organizing the water quality data that he's collected and gotten him trained in Excel and other software to boost his analytic skills. He has successfully integrated his growing command of HABS science and analysis with his natural poise and humor that has him working with seasoned professional HABS researchers from academia and government, and that carries over into his public presentations. While none of us like the Delta Tunnel project, I've enjoyed collaborating with Sarah, Artie, and Spencer to draft RTD's comments on the Delta Tunnel. As with Spencer on HABS, I did library sharing dumps with Artie on flood science and with Sarah on agriculture articles I had collected over the years. As with Spencer on HABS, I did library sharing dumps with Artie on flood science and with Sarah on what agriculture articles I've collected over the years, with the proviso that they represent libraries they can browse at their leisure, and because RTD doesn't have its own physical library. From my work with them on the comment letter, it's clear they both can think on their feet and they're both fast learners. I was overjoyed and proud of their methodical organizing of the 2-day RTD Delta Youth Symposium, Where the Future Flows, recently. The event presages ongoing conversations about the long-term health of the Delta among the younger generation who will be living and leading it. These are some special young folks we've got here, and we love them. Thanks.
It's so exciting to see all the young people that have joined the team. They're bringing their energy, their vitality, their unique cultural perspectives to a land that we all know is precious. And I'm really excited about the future of Restore the Delta with all these new folks on board. And I hope that they will get the kind of support they need to push the organization forward.
So this is the part of the program where I get to explain what we need for 2023. First off, we need enough funding for a secure office that can support a water quality testing program. Rents have gone up. We suffered a serious break-in in 2022 with vandalism. And many of the spaces offered to us just aren't safe or practical for dealing with water samples, parking, and lugging around equipment. Second, we need funding for our 2023 water quality testing program. Testing kits, PPE to protect employees, postage for sending off lab samples, paying for gas and salaries, insurance reporting. This is a significant endeavor, and right now it's the backbone for a lot of our work. To do this right and to extend our coverage, we need to raise $150,000. Third, we need a part-time staff coordinator for interns, scheduling, and to help Mariah and I regain a little bit of our sanity. We have grown to the point where we need also a full-time administrator so that I can focus on building major funding programs for Restore the Delta to secure our work well into the future. I and Mariah together, we simply can't continue training, running programs, overseeing campaign activities, policy work, planning for the future, and handling organizational administration. Mariah really needs to focus on communications and being our event manager, and we need a competent professional to help us daily on this front, not a trainee. Fourth, we need general operation funds to support our comment-driven work with the State Water Board and with DWR in regard to the voluntary agreements and the tunnel. That means supporting our policy advocate and media team, plus training the next generation to continue this work going forward. We're succession planning at Restore the Delta, and not because our existing senior team is going away, but because the world is a challenging place and we have a lot of work to do to ensure the success of our future leaders for the region. A lot of organizations aren't engaging in this activity, and it's a loss. It's a loss of understanding and wisdom and ability, and we want to do this differently. This last video explains our funding needs. I think the big difference between our past work to stop the twin tunnels and the present challenges that we're facing requires a more comprehensive form of regional self-advocacy. This time, we also have to say yes to what we want and insist on receiving what the estuary needs. The hope for the Delta exists in this next generation, insisting on positive projects like flood protection, urban waterway restoration, and investment in the West Coast's most magnificent estuary, the San Francisco Bay Delta Estuary. It will require young rural and urban Delta residents uniting to build a shared regional identity together that will support the best of our farms, our fisheries, improved recreation, the environment, our small towns, and our redeveloping urban centers. It will require celebrating the Delta as a place, its history, and its culture. It will require building and articulating a Delta identity that is shared by all people within our region. Thank you for joining us this evening and for your continued support. We hope that your holidays are joyous and that 2023 is filled with peace and abundance for you and your family. Thank you so much. Good night.